On September 19th through 21st, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky made his second visit to the United States since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. After attending the United Nations General Assembly in New York, he had a two-day visit to Washington, where he met with the US Congress, the Pentagon, and the White House. 19 months into Russia's war on Ukraine, and with the US Congress being absorbed by internal politics, the political environment in Washington was clearly a more difficult one as compared to Zelensky's visit in last December. So what are the results of Zelensky's visit and how did it go? Overall, this was a successful visit, with Zelensky being able to deliver his main messages, have candid conversations with the US counterparts, and work on securing continued bipartisan support for Ukraine. In New York, Zelensky was able to present Ukraine's peace formula and the UN reform proposals at the UN Security Council. In his address at the UN General Assembly, he urged for global solidarity while putting Russia's war on Ukraine in the global context. And President Biden's call to the UN members to uphold the principles of the United Nations Charter and support Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity was a good opening line for his later conversation with Zelensky in the White House. President Zelensky's visit to Washington had three main goals. First, expressing gratitude to the US government and the American people while asking for their continued support. It was a deliberate response to earlier criticisms in the West that Kyiv could have been more grateful for the provided aid. Second, convincing the US counterparts in Ukraine's credibility and ability to succeed in fighting Russia's aggression, with the support from the United States. This also required an honest conversation about the challenges and successes of the counteroffensive and realistic assessment of Ukraine's military needs, immediately and in the longer run. Among the immediate results on this track are the US announcement of the additional security assistance package for Ukraine worth of $325 million and delivery to Ukraine of the first batch of US-made Abrams tanks. Finally, the third goal was to secure continued US bipartisan support, primarily the Congress vote on the $24 billion Ukraine aid package in the next few weeks. It was important for Zelensky to address earlier concerns about corruption in Ukraine while making sure that the issue is not overly politicized as Ukraine continues with the reform efforts during the existential fight with Russia. Part of this effort was bringing along Ukraine's new Minister of Defense, Rustem Umerov, who just sacked 7 out of 8 deputy ministers in order to reboot the ministry's team. Umerov, who has credibility with Ukraine's government, opposition, and civil society, is very symbolically the first Crimean Tatar to serve in the minister's position in Ukraine. To summarize, Zelensky's face-to-face conversations with the US policymakers were helpful for both sides to do some reality checks and work on addressing existing concerns in Congress and in the White House, as well as in Kyiv.